So when I was growing up, and now I got to put this in context for some of you who don't, would not want to feel like they're out of context here. But the context is, for those of you who are old enough to remember a time when there wasn't a microwave, when the phone actually had a cord and was attached to the phone itself, and you only had the radius of whatever the phone cord was with which to work, that's the time period I'm talking about, okay? If you can't remember that time, it was before you were born, clearly. This was a time before Facebook, before the lie that is people's lives on Facebook was a popular thing, where Instagram ruled the day. This is when you actually got letters in the mail, and that's how you heard from people if they didn't want to call long distance. It was that time. And some families have a tradition on Christmas morning or on Christmas evening of reading like the night before Christmas, or doing something on Christmas morning that's kind of a tradition. We had a tradition in our family. We received every year a letter from a family that had been parishioners in my father's church right when he first arrived, but then very soon after left. And they thought it'd be nice of them. The tradition was, after all the presents were opened, we'd read this family's card, because inside the card was a glorious thing. It was about a 2-page letter that told us of the updates of these people's lives, and it was a thing to behold. At age 9, little Mary learned Russian fluently. At 16, little Joe, or whatever his name was, got a 1600 on the SAT and was the champion boxer for his school, who later went on to med school to cure some sort of cancer, to maybe get the Nobel Prize. I know where you couldn't, it was hard to tell what was going to be the next thing that these kids were going to do, but clearly the three of us, my brother, sister, and I, were not ever living up to this ridiculousness of this family. So we all got a good laugh at that. Now, I am sure that these people did this. I'm sure their kids have gone on to do wonderful things, and that's great. But my point is that for us, it didn't seem like it was true life. It was unobtainable for us three knuckleheads growing up that we were ever going to do anything like, be the captain of both the sailing team and the rowing team and, be the first in our class. That wasn't going to happen. But it makes me wonder about how we think about what real life is, and how we see sometimes things that are representations of real life but are not exactly real life. And it makes me wonder, the author of this letter to Timothy, this person is telling us how we should take hold of the life that really is life. What does that mean? It seems to me that if we're supposed to take hold of something, we have an option not to do it, right? We could not take hold of the life that is really life. It's like when you're stuck in quicksand and someone throws you a rope, you can either take the rope or continue to sink in the quicksand, right? We have an option. We have agency here. The other thing that comes across to me is that if we take hold of this life that is really life, we are probably leaving something else behind. And I wonder what it is that we would be leaving behind to take hold of this life that is really life. I think to leave behind, we'd probably be leaving behind things like worrying about who has more than you do, and instead worrying about who has less or nothing. I think it would mean leaving behind or worrying about where your next meal is going to come from, and instead worry that knowing tonight in our community of Severna Park, there will be dozens of families who will go to sleep tonight without something to eat. I think it means leaving behind the desire to step on someone else as you step up. As one of Katie, my wife's mother's favorite sayings was, I think we will know that we have reached real life when we have reached an elegant sufficiency. We are no longer full or hungry, but we are not overly full. We have reached that sweet spot where you've had just enough to eat. Your life is full, maybe not extravagantly full, but full. Where you're not lacking, but you're just in the right spot. I think that we need to take hold of this real life, to reach out, to grab it, to pull ourselves up. And it requires us to do that in faith. Faith that you are indeed moving to something that is better, a life that is a better way of being. I also think that when we take hold of the life that really is life, it means that we are reveling in, we're rejoicing in, we are giving thanks to God constantly for all of the gifts that God has given to us, all the blessings we have received. And if you stop and think about it and look around and see it, you'll see that every minute of every day is filled with a blessing for us, even when things are hard. Sometimes, especially when things are hard. I think that when we take hold of the life that really is life, that means that we take time to notice things. We saw a theme on the pilgrimage, and if we had seen the presentation that I put together about some of the things that the ASP missioners wrote about, one of the things that they said again and again was that they stopped to see the small things of life that were happening, to see the small blessings that were going on, to see God at work in small and subtle ways, along with God at work in some large and moving ways as well. I think it means stopping and noticing things like a really good grilled cheese sandwich. I think it means stopping and reveling in a well-struck 5-iron that lands perfectly on the green right up next to the hole. I think it means finding joy in the absolute beauty of a crisp fall day, a glorious blaze of a sunset, or that golden hour of time between sunset and actual starlight when everything is just bathed in a beautiful golden hue. We can see these in big and small ways of this life, these perfect moments that God gives to us, these gifts. And I bet that every single one of you, if you stopped and thought for a second, you could think of a perfect moment that God has given to you as well in your life, probably as early as this morning. The author of this letter also goes on to say that if we have wealth, if we've been blessed with that by God, that we have an obligation to let go of the wealth that ties us up and to give it to God's glory, doing something with it that will bring joy and a fullness, a fulsomeness, a wholeness to somebody else. If you have, think about it, if you have the ability to provide for those perfect moments for someone else, just think of how much you're going to get in return. Think of any time you've ever done something for someone selflessly. Don't you feel like you're the one that actually got the gift in the end? Ask anybody who went on ASP to repair a house. We went out there trying to do some good work, and by and large we did. And we gave the gift of homes that were warmer, safer, and drier, but I bet you to a person that we feel immeasurably blessed 10 times more than what we felt we gave. That is taking hold of the life that really is life. Taking hold of the life that really is life means that you finally had the realization that you are beloved of God. That God has given you not just these perfect, beautiful moments, but that God loves you so much that you don't have to be afraid of anything ever again, even death. I think we're pretty good, my brothers and sisters, at finding substitutes for the life that really isn't real life. When we focus on the things that we want or that we want to obtain, when we go to great lengths to protect what we've earned, what is ours, driven in the end by fear that someone is going to take it away, or fear's sidekick, dissatisfaction. I think we have fear that there won't be enough. I think we have fear that we won't get the next shiny object because the shine off the present object has indeed come off, and there won't be another shiny object to take its place. What will we do then? If we live in this fear of not enough, if we live in this fear of death is the end, if we live in this fear that we are not good enough, that we are not loved enough, that my God, we're certainly not skinny enough or tall enough or fast enough or smart enough, then we will have missed entirely the fact that we are so loved by God, that God would give God's only Son so that we don't have to worry about the fear of death, the fear of being not good enough, the fear of being too heavy around the middle, whatever it is that we get afraid of, or that we feel that we're not good enough is. God says, you are loved. And when we live in fear, we are not operating from a place where we can feel God's love, nor are we operating in a place where we can feel the abundance that God has given to us. Living with fear, living in fear, is not a place where one can experience the life that is really life. My prayer for us today is that we reach out and grab hold of, we grasp for, we reach, we hug, we hold close the real life that we've been given by God. And that we remember to give thanks to the God who has given us everything, everything, and loves us without ceasing. Amen.